Hola, soy yo Vicky otra vez. En el video de hoy vamos a aprender 15 verbos útiles en español. So, in this video, we're going to learn 15 useful verbs in Spanish that all begin with B. Todos empiezan por B. Okay, there is another video in my channel with the verbs that begin, useful verbs that begin with A. I will gradually work through the alphabet, I think, as we go along. So it's always good. The more verbs you know, the more you can speak, obviously, because you need, although, you know, people quite often say, oh, I don't want to learn any grammar, I just want conversation. It's the most ridiculous thing, really, to say, because you cannot have a conversation without grammar and verbs. It's just the way it is. We just have to accept it. We cannot learn Spanish properly without learning some verbs. Verbs are doing words, of course. So you probably know quite a lot of verbs. If you've been studying Spanish a little while, maybe you already know quite a lot of verbs. If you've been studying Spanish with me, we tend to use the most useful verbs. As I always operate in my classes on a need-to-know basis, you can't teach people everything all at once. You can only learn one thing at a time. So be kind to yourself. You can't suddenly learn a whole language and be fluent. You can only do it a bit at a time. So it's nice to expand your verbs. You know, you learn the most useful verbs. Obviously, there's some verbs that are so common, you know, eat, drink, go, be, to be, etc. And then as you go along, you pick up new verbs and you expand your range of conversation. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to look specifically at verbs that begin with be. And not only the verbs, we're going to look at them in the present tense, the simple past tense or preterite tense, and we're going to look at the participle of these verbs, okay? And I will be giving you an example. It's a good idea for you to think of some examples as well. So we're going to start with a verb that you probably do know. Este verbo a lo mejor ya conoces. Bailar, bailar, to dance. Okay, it's a nice regular verb, an AR verb. So in the present tense, we have bailó, bailas, baila, bailamos, bailáis, bailan. In the preterite, yeah, so present tense is I dance, you dance, he, she, it dances, we dance, you dance, they dance. Past tense, of course, is I danced, you danced, he, she, it danced, we danced, you danced, they danced. And in Spanish is bailé, bailaste, bailó, bailamos, bailasteis, bailaron. And then our participle, like if you were saying, I have danced, you know, using this tense, is bailado. Bailado, I have danced. So if you wanted to say, I have danced all night, you would say, he bailado toda la noche. Or if you want to say, I danced last Saturday, bailé el sábado pasado. Yeah? Or I dance every Saturday, present tense, bailo cada sábado. Okay, so if you want to think of some examples of these and put them in comments, I'm happy to correct them or look at them, tell you if they're correct. You can ask me anything on there. Please ask me any queries, doubts that you might have. Now, it's a good idea to maybe freeze the video and then see if you can remember these forms. And believe me, when I was preparing this video, I realized even for me, you know, there's some verbs that, you know, you just don't say for quite a long time. So I found it useful, you know, to go over some of these verbs and the endings. It's always important to practice the endings because you learn them and then, you know, you can sort of forget things, you know, so it's always good to every now and again go over them. So that's bailar, to dance. A less common verb that we're going to look at now, número dos, is bajar. Bajar. Now, bajar is to lower something or to go down, like if you go down the stairs. So we've got present tense, bajo, bacas, baca, bacamos, bacáis, bacan. Preterite, and another regular AR verb, baque, bacas, baco, bacamos, bacastes, bacaron. And our participle is bacado, lowered. So, for example, gone, if you're saying, where's Juan? ¿Dónde está Juan? You're saying he's gone down to the shops. Ha bajado a las tiendas. Yeah, that's the sort of examples that you should be looking at. I would advise you to try an example in each tense, present tense, preterite tense, and using the participle. Try an example, yeah. If you're not sure, let me know and I will tell you if you're right or not. Okay, número tres, bañar, to bathe. Now, of course, this is one of those verbs that can be used reflexively as well. So if you're talking about having a bath or bathing yourself, you would use bañarse. If you don't know about reflexive verbs, there are lots of videos on reflexive verbs here on my channel. So you just press into search reflexive verbs, Vicki Riley, or into my channel search, it will come up. All the videos on reflexive verbs if you haven't done them yet or if you're not sure of them. If you have my books, reflexive verbs are in level 2. So this is probably a good time to just remind you about my books, which are available on any Amazon site. Break the language barrier, Vicki Riley. There are 4 levels. 1, 2, 3, and 4. This is level 2, and actually the reflexive verbs are in this. If you're not sure which book to buy, again, get in touch with me. I'll tell you which book would be appropriate for your level. Because if you want to learn at home, the books are perfect because they explain, they're very easy to follow. And there are YouTube videos to back up all the exercises. Of course, as well, if you're really wanting to practice your Spanish, I have these 3 storybooks, Rocky the Rebel or Rocky el Rebelde, Duque el Rey, Peter el Tonto se van de vacaciones, Duque the King and Peter, Silly Peter go on holiday, and La Gran Aventura de la Princesa Tia, the Great Adventure of, or Princess Tia's Great Adventure. These 3 books are in Spanish and English, so you can practice. They're just little stories for you to practice your Spanish. Okay, so yeah, so I was trying to think how I got onto that subject. Yeah, so if you want to know about reflexive verbs, level 2 book is the book for you. So we're going to look at it non-reflexively. So baño, present tense, bañó, bañas, bañá, bañamos, bañáis, bañan. So remember this ñ sound for the N with the squiggle over the top or the tilde. Past tense, I bathed. Bañé, bañaste, bañó, bañamos, bañasteis, bañaron. And bathed, like I have bathed, well, it'd be me he bañado, because that's reflexive. But if you're saying I bathed the dog, which is not reflexive, he bañado al perro. Now, something I want to point out, which actually in a couple of the other verbs, in the present tense and preterite, past tense, the we forms are the same. Bañamos and bañamos. So it could be we bathe or we bathed. So you only know from the context of the sentence whether it's present or past tense. Okay, número 4. Barrer, to sweep. I was going to say sleep then. To sweep, like sweep the floor, obviously. So this is one of those with a double R. So if you can do your if you can roll your R's, which believe me is difficult even for me, even after all these years. It is difficult, you know, it's not a sound that comes naturally to English speakers, is it? Barro, barras, barra, barro, barres, barre, because it's an ER verb. Barremos, barreis, barren. Yeah, I was right in my AR sort of thinking there. And then we've got the preterite, past tense, swept, of course, in English. It's irregular in English. I swept the floor. Barré, bariste, barrió, barrimos, baristeis, barrieron. And then the past participle, I have swept, for example. Barrido, barrido. He barrido en la cocina. I've swept up in the kitchen, for example. Okay, vale. Número 5. Batir, to beat, as in beat an egg. Okay, bato, bates, bate, batimos, batis, baten. So this is an IR verb. So we've got our IR endings. Bati, batiste, batió, batimos, batistes, batieron. So the ER and IR endings in the preterite tense are the same. Batido, beaten. I have beaten the egg. He batido el huevo. Then, número 6 is quite a common verb. You probably know this one if you've done any Spanish whatsoever. Beber, to drink. So it's one of those classic regular verbs that we always use as examples because it's regular in all tenses. Bebo, bebes, bebe. Bebemos, bebéis, beben. Preterite, I drank. Bebí, bebiste, bebió. Bebimos, bebistes, bebieron. And I have drank, bebido. A nice verb now that you might need if you're lucky at some point. Besar, to kiss. A classic regular AR verb. Beso, besas, besa. Besamos, besáis, besan. Preterite, besé, besaste, besó, besamos, besasteis, besaron, and I have kissed would be he besado. Okay, número 8, a handy verb, I think, and a nice verb because it sounds like the English version. Bloquear, to block. So remember that a QU is a K sound in Spanish, not que. So it's not bloquear, it's bloquear. And we've got bloqueo, bloqueas, bloquea, bloqueamos, bloqueáis, bloquean. And then preterite, I blocked, bloqueé, bloqueaste, bloqueó, bloqueamos, bloqueasteis, bloquearon. And then I have blocked, he bloqueado. Okay, número 9. Another one with a double R. Borrar, to erase or to rub out. Borró, borras, borra. Borramos, borráis, borran. And past tense, I rubbed out or erased. Borré, borraste, borró. Borramos, borrasteis, borraron. Gosh, it gets tongue twister in the end. And I have rubbed out, he borrado. Vale, número 10. Bostezar. This is a verb I always find hard to remember. I don't know why. I think it's probably because you don't use it very often. But anyway, it's to yawn. Bostezar, to yawn. Bostezo, bostezas, bosteza. Bostezamos, bostezáis, bostezan. Past tense, I yawned. bostecé, bostezaste, bostezó, bostezamos, bostezasteis. I've missed an S out there. Oh, I always make at least one spelling mistake. Bostezasta, bostezasteis, bostezaron. And then I have yawned, bostezado. Vale, número 11. Boxear, to box. Boxeo, boxeas, boxea. Boxeamos, boxeáis, boxean. Reiterate, I boxed. Boxee. So remember, all these syllables have to pronounce. So boxee, boxeaste, boxeo, boxeamos, boxeasteis, boxearon. And I have boxed, he boxeado. Remember, when you want to make negatives of any of these verbs, you just put no in front. So I haven't boxed, no he boxeado. It's very easy to make negatives in Spanish. Okay, another verb begins with B, brillar. So remember, the double L is a y sound, unless you come from Colombia where it's a j sound. So brillar or brillar, but not brillar. Brillo, brillas, brilla, brillamos, brilláis, brillan. Brillé, brillaste, brillo, brillamos, brillasteis, brillaron. And I have shone, or the sun has shone, be el sol ha brillado. Vale, número 13, buscar, to search or to look for. You see this on your computers. Search, busca. So, busco, buscas, busca, buscamos, buscáis, busca. No, not buscaron, buscan. I think by this time they were all merging into one, the past and the present. So let's have that again. Busco, buscas, busca, buscamos, buscáis, buscan. Then the preterite, I searched or looked for. Busqué, buscaste, buscó, buscamos, buscasteis, buscaron. And I have searched, he buscado. Okay, número 14, bromear, to joke, to make a joke. Bromeo, bromeas, bromea. Bromeamos, bromeáis, bromean. Preterite, I joked or I made a joke. Bromeé, bromeaste, bromeó. Bromeamos, bromeasteis, bromearon. And I have joked or have made a joke. He bromeado. And then the last one, bobinar. I love this verb because you can see where that song, wind the bobbin up, where a bobbin comes from. A bobbin where we wind wool around. Obviously, maybe it's from the Latin, I don't know, or maybe this verb comes from the English, I don't know. But bobinar, to wind or reel, like wool or thread or rope. So, bobino, bobinas, bobina, bobinamos, bobináis, bobinan. Sorry, it's just making me giggle. I've put babinan, but it's bobinan. And something's bobbing in the water as well. You can just see where it comes from. It's quite funny. So, I wound the wool, bobine, la lana, bobinaste, bobinó, bobinamos, bobinasteis, bobinaron. And then I have wound the wool. He bobinado la lana. Okay, now I felt like there was a spelling change I wanted to point out there, which I haven't, but maybe I decided not to use that verb. One moment, I hope you've understood it okay. Of course, as I say, to practice these verbs, so always, I mean, it seems like, it's like your times table years ago, how we used to learn it, just repeating it. I mean, I can honestly say I actually don't remember but that maths is not my thing. Numbers are just like a black hole to me, I'm afraid. Oh yeah, in this verb buscar, I just wanted to point out that you see in the first person in the pre-treat, it should be a C, yeah, busque. But the thing is, if it was a C, it would be busque. So to keep the pronunciation as a k sound, they change it to a Q. So busque. So quite often you get spelling changes in Spanish to keep the pronunciation uniform, and that is one of those examples. Okay, so as I say, do some examples of sentences using those verbs. Expand your range of verbs. I always try to pick ones that are useful and also that you can have some connection to the English, so they're easier to remember. So I hope you found that video useful. If you have found this video useful, please, as always, please give me a thumbs up. That really helps me with my channel. Any comments you have, please leave in comentarios. Anything you want me to clarify, any doubts you have, please do. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. If you have, thank you so much. And pressing there's a notification bell that if you press that, you always get notification of new videos. I'm trying to do one video a week. Now we're into the new year and getting a little bit back to normal. At least one video a week anyway. So, okay, thank you so much. Que tu Dios vaya contigo como siempre y te veo en el próximo video muy pronto. Gracias. Adiós.